I want to quickly play Miles here, part of that speech last night.
Queenslanders, I gave this election everything I had. If you consider what we were up against, this is an extraordinary result. It was always going to be a challenging election for Labor, but I have no regrets about the campaign or indeed my last 10 months as Premier.
OK, so he seems pretty happy with himself. Let's have a look at Chris Foley, the so-called Conservative Liberal leader.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, tonight Queenslanders have voted for hope over fear. They have voted for a fresh start, and they have voted for a majority LNP government.
So let's not forget, James and Rita, that this is the character who was for a treaty, then maybe against a treaty. I lost track of where he stood on those things. This is, Rita, what's something we've talked about a lot, and James, the fake Conservative Liberal Party leaders at a state level who have led another disappointing result. They don't get great results, these characters, Rita.
Well, they're not conviction politicians, and you could characterise this victory as really a defeat of Labor. The Queenslanders were sick of consecutive Labor terms. They were sick of what was happening with crime, cost of living, the energy policy, and they've given the other side a go. It happens. So it now remains to be seen. I don't think we can judge him yet. Let's see, now that he has power, how he exercises that power, whether he is pushing those ideals that voters backed him on. And let's see where he stands on the crucial issue of nuclear energy, because he has been obstructionist when it comes to that for Peter Dutton, for the coalition federally.
James?
Now that he's in power, let's hope that we actually see some sense.
But when have we seen this? When do we ever see this? If they don't perform in opposition, they don't perform in the position.
Well, yeah, the thing is that they keep taking these sort of left-wing populist views. They keep sort of trying to fend that off. They keep trying to... The great problem with these leaders, and we see this in New South Wales, we see this in other states too, is that we have these leaders who go and they try to get votes from people who will never vote for them because they're not Liberals, they're not Conservatives, and they will vote for the Labor or Greens alternative every day of the week rather than offering a real difference. And that's why I think we've got this real problem in this country where, with the exception, I think, of Peter Dutton on a federal level, on a state level, it's very much this kind of uniparty type of situation where, look at Mark Speakman here in New South Wales. I'm sure, Rita, you could talk to Victoria. Similarly, you see it elsewhere, where there's no point of difference, and it's just all Me Too.
If you want uniparty, you look at Victoria and you see the end result in Victoria, the biggest state debt in the country. The place is broke. We can't even afford to hold our events anymore. We won the Commonwealth Games.
Yes.
We had to give them up because we couldn't afford to hold them. That is an embarrassment. The taxes, the state taxes are through the roof, payroll, land tax. People are hurting, people are leaving the states, businesses are closing. And that's what happens when you've got a uniparty, because people don't actually have a choice. And you look at the coalition at the last state election, that Victoria, really, how were they any different? They had the same radical gender policies, they had the same energy policies. In fact, they signed up to state Labor's emission targets, which are even higher than the federal Labor targets.
In a nutshell.
They wanted a treaty. They want every single policy area, except for getting rid of a road that's being built. But they were on the same page. So you've got to actually stand for something. And Peter Dutton has shown this. Everyone looked at that federal result and said, this has to be a minimum two-term Labor government because the gap's so wide. And he has shown when you actually stand for something, when you go against the media, when you go against that prevailing narrative and you've got conviction and you articulate your case like he did with The Voice, like he's doing with energy policy,
and Israel,
people back you.
And Israel. And let's put it in a nutshell. If you're prepared to fight the culture wars as a Liberal, you can win. And Peter Dutton is going to win the next election. He's showing he can fight the culture wars. He's doing it. He's got to do it on more issues. He's got to fight the transgender issue. He's got to come out on that strongly. He's got to get on the right track on this misinformation, disinformation garbage, this censorship rules that Labor are bringing in. But James, give us the ramifications of the Queensland so-called victory or partial victory or, you know, small victory for the Liberals. What's this mean for Albanese?
Yeah, look, it's not great news for Albanese. It would have been weirdly better news for Albanese if the Liberals had a really huge blowout, because Queenslanders do tend to split that vote. One thing, though, that I think, just to go back to your point about Peter Dutton, Rowan, is that, you know, we are now at this point now where we see Peter Dutton has been playing the long game and Anthony Albanese plays the news cycle.
Yep.
And I think we are starting to see that pay dividends. We're starting to see that with the news poll, you know, 50-50, with all the polls now really pretty much split. It's not enough for Peter Dutton to form a majority government at this point. But boy, Anthony Albanese is just slowly but surely losing altitude week by week. And I think that's because the Dutton focus, his strategy, his temperament, I think, is to think about this as a long-term marathon, whereas I think, you know, Albanese gets very panicky personally and starts trying to just run through each news cycle.
And I think that's what we were saying before. It's about having conviction. When you're just playing the news cycle, when you're just trying to get a win on the board that week and make, you actually get yourself into this sort of strife when you don't really stand for anything. Now, I'm not saying Anthony Albanese doesn't stand for anything. We know where he is politically. He's been in Labor's socialist left faction for decades. That's his politics. He's tried to present himself as some sort of a moderate. No one's buying that anymore. Remember the front page, I'm not woke, I'm not, you know, I'm not going to be governing for the far left? Nonsense. He has been leading a radical leftist government. And at some point, that's going to cost him, and I think it's already beginning to show. Labor only hold 5 of the 30 federal seats in Queensland. He'll be wanting to increase that, obviously, but looking at this result overnight, that's in doubt.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the lesson for Peter Dutton from all this is go in on these cultural issues and you can win big. Win big is what we need for this country.